Welcome to a2znowledge.com. So today what we are actually going to discuss is all about what are all the programming topics as a data engineer I need to know. Okay, so if you go for any data engineering concepts like or tools or the frameworks, so I'm not speaking only for big data perspective. Data engineer is not only for big data. Okay, if you work for any data related projects, it can be a database or data warehouse or it can be a data pipeline. So you are a data engineer. So if for a data engineer in their daily day-to-day life, so they need two important things. Maybe I can say three important skill sets they need. One is Linux, and the second one is SQL or SQL, and the third is programming language. So SQL and SQL, that means the SQL and programming language plays an important role, and they will be acting in 50% you will be using, and that's a fact actually. So that means people are getting a kind of a panic, I can say, because people don't like to learn programming language. That's a fact. But people used to ask me like, what are all the topics that I need to cover? Okay, when I say programming language, it's a vast area, right? So what are all the topics I just need to know to become a data engineer? Oh, that's what we are going to discuss today. And if you see here, okay, so I prefer you to pick one language before you start with it. For example, let me go for Java or Python or Scala or even C++ or C# is fine. So I can prefer you to go for Java or Python. So mostly widely used language in any data frameworks you go. And if you see, these are all some lists that you need to just concentrate, and you don't want to worry about anything else. So very first important thing, if you go for, okay, just pick Java. So just you need to know the architecture. So how the compilation process happens, how the runtime happens, so what is Java, and that's it. And don't spend time on knowing what is the history of Java, who invented it, and those stuff is advantages, benefits, it's not required. And please just ignore those stuffs. And just come to know the architecture, and then start with hello world, and just you need to know if I want to write a code, so where I need to write a code, in a normal notepad, or is there any specific IDEs, we call it as integrated development environment, like Eclipse, IntelliJ, NetBeans are called IDEs. In real time we use such IDEs, or you can even open your notepad and start typing a code and run it, get the output. So even you can do in that way. So once you complete this, that means what I'm coming to say is just an hello world, just do it. So just come to know what is Java and the architecture, then do a hello world, and once you completed it, just go ahead with access modifiers and specifiers. Okay, so some people may used to think now, so you are missing something. What is that? Okay, so variables, and then data types, and control statements, and looping. So don't spend time on these four topics. So it's something like once you get into the practice, automatically this will be coming into your mind, or Google is there to help. So you don't want to spend time at all in these topics. Means don't try to understand like what is variable, how to do it, and control statements and loopings, and especially data type. People used to learn like what is the range of string, what is the range of int, and we are not going to remember everything, and of course we are not going to use it in real time also. So you don't want to spend time on learning those stuff, and very important to point that. Yeah, and then access modifiers and specifiers, and if you are new to this term, just please Google it, you will come to know. And then OOPS. So OOPS concept is very much important for you to learn, and Java has some 7 concepts, and Python has some 5 to 6 concepts. Depends on the language, but objects needs to be get controlled with these concepts, so you need to know it. And then exception handling, of course, when the errors and exception comes, you have to handle it in your code. You need to know that. Then string handling. Data is all about predominantly, mostly the widely used data types in the modern data technology is string. So you need to know how to manipulate the string, right? And how to control the strings. And then file handling, so to read a file, process the data, and write the processed data back to a file, so you need to know file handling. Collections, of course, the mini data structure we have as a handy in all languages, and especially you need to know maps, set, and list is very important from the data engineering perspective. Methods, so try to write the methods or functions, how to call a function, how to pass values for the arguments in the function, so you just explore those area. And then functional programming. Okay, so I said something called object-oriented programming. Similar to that, there is something called functional programming. So Java is functional programming, and Python is a functional programming. Scala is Python functional programming. So just you need to know what is functional programming and how to use it. So to control object, we have OOPS. To control functions, we have functional programming. So in my YouTube channel, I have videos for Java, Scala, Python, and I have shared that link in the description box, you can see. And also I have a link for what is functional programming. So that link also I have shared, just you can check that video as well. And finally, JDBC connectivity. So any language that you learn, just you need to learn how to connect that with the DB, read the data, process it, and write it back to the DB. So you need to know some DB activities also. Okay, so these are all some important concepts you need to know, and maybe you can ask me this questions like why, so you are ignoring few of the concepts. For example, people used to ask me why you are not covering network programming, why you are not covering web application programming or memory management programming or threads, of course, single thread, multi-thread programming. So as a data engineer, right, we don't want to know these topics. For example, as a data engineer, if you take Hadoop, we have, in big data, we have Hadoop, Spark, and if you go for outside the world of big data, we have Informatica, Ab initio, and so many other data frameworks for ETL processing, for pipeline, for storage like Oracle, MySQL. So these are some of the data frameworks which internally has some functionalities like what happened. So if you take all these frameworks, right, they are cluster computing. So your problem is, your question is, I'm writing a code and suddenly one node goes down, means who will take care? So for that we don't want to learn a network programming and write a monitoring programming and all. So that is something taken care by the framework that you use. So if framework is not supporting such things, then we will never use the framework, right? Then they cannot sell the framework to you. So all modern data frameworks has all the functionalities like network programming, you don't want to worry about it. So the cluster monitoring will be taken care by the cluster, and you don't want to worry about single thread, multi-thread, all your jobs will run in parallel, and that is guaranteed by the framework you go. And if memory management, so all you need to say how much memory you need to allocate for this particular job, and you don't want to say, you don't want to allocate task wise, just you allocate the memory as a number in a configuration file and your cluster will take care of it. And web application is something not required for us. So these are all some topics, is not at all required for you, which the framework what you use will take care of it. But I am not sure what framework you are using, but I can say for sure the framework what you are using will have all these functionalities. And for example, you can ask me like, if I know these topics like network programming, memory management programming or threads, is an add-on for me? Yes, of course I will say add-on for you. You can invent new frameworks, but if you are not that much into programming, or you are not that much into, means you are not that much interested, then you can leave those topics. Just go with this. This will help you for your day-to-day life and even in the interview perspective. And if you go for an interview which is 1 hour slot, and for 10 minutes they can allocate for checking your programming skills, and in that 10 minutes they will never ask you like what is single thread, multi-thread, network programming and those stuff. So they will be concentrating on these areas, because we are going to use the syntaxes or the concepts and programming language to process the data. That's it. Okay, so thanks for watching a2zknowledge.com. Like if you really like this video, subscribe my channel and forward this to your friends and colleagues. So we provide a lot of tech videos in English and Tamil, 2 languages, and we have a lot of practical videos also. Just go to my channel and explore it. And I have shared my LinkedIn URL and Instagram URL in the description box. If you want to contact me, you can contact me. And thanks for watching a2zknowledge.com.